today is a world of possibilities, or the world of possibilities. And imagine is a good lead into that, because what we're talking about, or what I'm talking about today, is how do we make our life happen? How does it happen in every day? How do we make our day happen? A lot of people would tell us that we're on a timeline. That there's genetic influences, there's the past, there's a whole lot of things behind us that are determining what's going to happen in front of us. And that's a pretty common view, and you can be forgiven, even though you are all steeped in the traditions of New Thought, for thinking that yourself every once in a while. But the fact is that our teaching teaches us that it's simply not true. The past does not control the future. It doesn't control this moment. It's influencing it to any degree that we allow it to. What is the deep implication of the fact that our genetic makeup and our past do not have to influence what happens next? Think about if you really, really let go and just let your mind run wild with what you could be, what you would love to do, who you could be. How big can you allow yourself to get? How big could you be? Could you be a great person? Could you be a wealthy person? Could you be a generous philanthropist? Could you be an athletic star? What are you willing to risk in terms of your imagining? Our teaching says that's anything that we can imagine is possible. That anything we imagine is what we're going to get. So what are we imagining in any moment? What are we imagining is coming next? We look at. So if you can imagine something, it can become real. And that has to do with your life, your health, your finances, your relationships, whatever you want. The job is to start imagining. The job is to move out of what Dr. Joseph Dispenza says is move out of the familiar into the unknown. Because as long as we're doing what we did yesterday on top of what we did the day before, we're going to get the same results. But at some point, if we stop and say, oh, I want to imagine a different result, I want to imagine a different outcome in my life, what could be different? Then we bring into the world a new possibility for our life. Most of my life, I was kind of a left-brained scientific person. And when I started studying New Thought, it made sense to me on an intuitive level, but I couldn't figure it out how it worked scientifically. And that used to bother me a little bit, because I couldn't prove that it could work scientifically. Ernest Holmes would tell you that, yes, it's very provable. All you do is do the work, and you get the outcome and that's how he used to prove it. But I wasn't always getting the outcomes because I wasn't doing the work good enough, or whatever, or hard enough, or I wasn't working hard enough at it. I wasn't believing in it. And so it wasn't scientific enough for me. But now that I understand that the brain research and quantum physics have caught up with all this, I feel much more secure in my belief in New Thought. Anyway, it allows me to let go of that skeptic and doubt a little bit. What I want us to do is take a moment and talk to our neighbor and just talk a little bit about what could you imagine if you really let yourself imagine yourself being great, just bigger than you are. If you really let go, what could you really be in your life? So find somebody to talk to for a second. Just say, take some aspect of what you just talked about, some part of your conversation, some really great thing that you thought you could be. Just keep that in your mind. And now imagine what it would feel like if that was happening right now. what would it feel like to be really great? How would you feel? Teach your body what it would feel like to be a great person, to have unlimited imagination, to not be bound to your past or your genetic destiny, but to open yourself up to a whole new timeline, a parallel reality, but one that's different from the one that you were on when you walked in here. Because it's possible in this moment for you to change your timeline, right in this moment. If you can teach your body to feel excited, to feel powerful, to feel joy, the idea of this, you've changed your destiny in this moment. And you can do this anytime. Anytime. Our bodies get used to feeling some of the old tired emotions and the old tired thoughts. Anytime we can teach our body to feel a little bit of excitement and joy, we move into a whole new time. And that's what I want for you all, and that's what I hope we're all moving to. I know we're moving to. I know that's true. We're all moving into a new timeline. That's why we're here. That's what we share. That's what we come to support each other. From now on, when you see your friends, you see your fellow members of the church here, remember, they are magnificent. They are absolutely magnificent beings. And see that, and support that in them. Because sometimes they forget. Just like we forget. So let's make an agreement to see the magnificence. That's what we see. Thank you very much. So, you're probably wondering what I'm going to talk about. I am too. But I know it's going to come to me in a moment. That's not true. The biggest thing in my life at the moment is meditation. And those of you that are doing the Next Step class will know that I spend a lot of time talking about meditation. And interestingly enough, it seems like meditation has been popping up everywhere around me. What I'm finding is that everybody's talking about meditation all of a sudden. Unity's talking about it. Churches of religious science are talking about it. The Christians are talking about it. The scientists are talking about it. Everybody's talking about meditation. Isn't that funny how when you start to look at something, all of a sudden it's everywhere around you? So I thought it would be useful to go back and study what Unity has to say about meditation. How many people actually believe that they create everything that happens about it? Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. How many people have things that they don't like happening in their life? Why are you creating that? What's that?
To learn lessons.
To learn lessons.
Somebody's helping me.
Somebody's helping you. I'm not going to go into that. And maybe it's because we don't know how to create something better. Has anybody kind of been learning the same old lesson over and over again? Yeah? I see a few nods. Somebody's going to put their hand up to that one. There's a few nods. Why do we have to learn the same old lesson over and over again?
Must not be paying attention.
Actually, I think there's a deeper reason. And the deeper reason is that we have a blind spot. It's almost impossible for us to see why we've chosen to create this lesson over and over again. And that's why it keeps coming back. And what we know now is that there's a scientific reason for that. And there always was a scientific reason, we just didn't know what it was. The mystics and all of the sages and gurus from the past have known this for years, thousands of years. But science finally understands. And the reason is all to be found in brain neurology and brain science. And there's one very simple little phrase that a Canadian scientist, brain neurologist, coined, and that is that neurons that fire together wire together. And what that means is, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, it becomes habitual in our brain, and the brain develops a pathway that we aren't even conscious of anymore. You know how when you first learned to ride a bike, you had to think about it. You know, you had to think about balance, you had to think about how to pedal, how to use the brakes. It was so complicated. Now, 90% of us could probably hop on a bike and ride it without thinking about it. Because you repeated something over and over enough times that it wired together in the brain, and then the brain could take over without having any conscious need to be involved. And that's why we keep getting the same results in some areas of our life, because we're so habitually doing the same things that we don't even know we're doing them. There are attitudes and beliefs and ideas that we have that we aren't even aware of. But there's hope. And I finally think I got a handle on that. That really makes sense to me. The key to it is where we're putting our attention. What are we paying attention to? I struggled to learn meditation many times in my life. I'd sat down and said, I'm going to meditate now, and it's going to be a practice, and I'd get through about 5 or 10 minutes and say, well, that was good, and go do something else. And then about 3 months later, I wasn't doing it anymore. And I did that for a long time. And I found out that I wasn't paying attention to the right aspect of my being. I was paying attention to the outside world. I was paying attention to my thoughts. I was paying attention to my body when it said it itched here or it scratched there, or I was hungry or whatever. And what I learned was that our mind and our bodies are constantly trying to get us to stay the same. They have a very vested interest in us not changing, in not becoming all that we can be. And the reason is that they believe that that's the safest route for us, that we're safest if we just stay like we are. If we don't really change, if we don't really become big, if we don't really take risks, if we don't become great, we'll be okay. So what's determining the outcome that we get? The past, right? What we're bringing to this moment. If we were completely open and free and surrendered to love, anything could happen. But if we're holding on to something, if we're paying attention to something, we're giving it energy and making it real.